Drag queens, make it work. Okay, I'm no Marsha, but I am Anna Rumor from PopCulture.
And I'm Nick Valdez from comicbook.com.
And this is Dragged, where we offer our unfiltered opinions about RuPaul's Drag Race because, my God, this episode came in like a wrecking ball. We are going in on the 4th episode of RuPaul's Drag Race, season 15 today, and we've got double Snatch Game already. Nick, super curious what you thought of this week's episode.
It went by so quickly,
Yes.
It was a little worse than last week because it was so much information to take in, so little time. It was a lot. We got a lot thrown at us this week. Here we are with 2 Snatch Games, 2 different groups of queens, and kind of the same result for both of them, with a few standouts, and then the rest are just... Yeah.
I feel the same way. I mean, obviously there's no guarantee about who gets to Snatch Game, but I'm like, we could have gotten rid of some of these before we did this. We've got 14 queens who did Snatch Game, and we need to get into all their performances. Let's start with the first group. We're right into it. Now, right off the bat, Marsha. I already referenced this earlier. She did Tim Gunn, and I thought she did a really good job. What did you think of her?
I thought she did the best. So when she didn't exactly win her Snatch Game group, I was a little kind of bummed. I was surprised because her Tim Gunn, out of nowhere, the perfect voice. Like I was like, no, that is perfect. You deserve everything for just the impression alone. Like, yes, Marsha, keep giving us those layers. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, we'll talk about this later. Her runway was a true atrocity, but this impression was so good that I was like on board for her winning anyways, because the Tim Gunn was perfect. She had the perfect interjections and playing off of the other queens without feeling like she was interrupting anyone. And like you said, the impression was just like right on. I loved this. Best Tim Gunn we've ever gotten on Drag Race or pretty much anywhere else.
Yes, best overall character too. Like, the problem with, going after, certain characters like Selena and the Virgin Mary, it was just, it's a real one note kind of joke. You only have one gag to go with, and all you can do is kind of steer into that.
Doing any historic character on Drag Race, I think, can be a really smart choice because they don't have, video of these people. You can kind of make them whoever you want as long as you tie things in. But Selena felt like she was so dedicated to bringing on this one gag, their pregnancy, which didn't end up being funny and didn't really tie in with what was going on, that it felt very one note to me. I don't know. There was so much more she could have done with this that she just really didn't.
But in the same token, it's either, you either get your Tim Gunn or your Virgin Marys. That's kind of better than the rest of the group overall. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot of standout performances. So, I mean, I guess Selena made the right choice in doing things.
Yeah, and spoiler, she's safe, so whatever, I guess. I was really disappointed by Robin Fierce because Karen Huger is the funniest Real Housewife of all time. She's my absolute favorite. I was so excited to see her being represented on the show, and then we get like a Wikipedia entry where she's like, I have a mansion and my husband's name is Ray and I grew up in Surrey County. And I was like, yeah. Yep, that's true. Where's the jokes? I don't know. I mean, and then we saw nothing else of her. So that was a little disappointing to me. Well, and it was the same thing with Lex Noir London. She was Amanda Lepore. She looked fabulous. She always looks beautiful. But I don't recall her saying anything that was supposed to be funny or that I thought was supposed to be funny.
It's the same for Malaysia Baby Doll Fox, who Saucy Santana, fun idea. I don't know who that is, as an artist, but, there's nothing saucy about her. So.
The problem is, and we ran into this in the other Snatch Game, so we'll talk about it more there. This is RuPaul's Drag Race. RuPaul likes old references that she knows. And RuPaul doesn't know who Saucy Santana is. I would bet my mortgage on it. So I'm just thinking, this is not a good starting point. You have to be able to banter back and forth with Ru, and if Ru has no idea who you are, you're already starting off on a more difficult platform.
Yeah, like Anitra had Georgina Ramsey. I'm like first of all, I was like, is that a real person? That, you know, I feel dumb because for a second I was like, wait a minute, but there was something there, but also it was the same problem as the rest of them. Just kind of like, you did well enough to get through Snatch Game, I guess.
Here is my toxic trait. I find Anitra so electric and charming to watch, but even though she did nothing except for break character once and laugh at like how dumb her character was, I loved it. I thought it was one of the funnier performances, and she didn't even do anything.
I mean, that's fine and all, but then you have Mistress, who like did the Rosie O'Donnell, Abby Lee Miller, who she pointed out, she's like, I could also be Abby Lee Miller, and I was feeling it, but at the same time, I don't know. What did you think?
Okay, so funny, not super funny. You know,
Yes.
like, this was a very good impression. I enjoyed the Abby Lee Miller bringing that in. I don't know if that was planned or off the cuff. Obviously, Mistress has improv chops. She's got impression chops. There were a lot of funny jokes that were thrown in there, but I wasn't, like, giggling. You know, it was a good Snatch Game performance, but it didn't have that electricity that, like, a really good Snatch Game performance brings, you know?
Right. It was no Tim Gunn. You know,
Yes.
So that's also why I was like, probably should have went to Marsha, you know, but this is all much better than what we get in the second group.
I was like openly cringing at the twins, Sugar and Spice. Sugar is Trisha Paytas. We already talked about this. Ru has no idea who Trisha Paytas is. Also, this was a bad Trisha Paytas. Whatever. And then Spice is Miley Cyrus, which was not a horrible impression, but it was deeply unfunny and bananas and went off the rails like immediately. What was she doing?
I don't know. It's like she got locked into like one joke or like just the I thought my TV was malfunctioning for a second as she kept hitting herself with the hammer and doing that like Elmer Fudd laugh. What is that? What is she doing? They were still bringing their usual energy of like talking over one another and finishing each other's sentences and all the twin stuff like to the rest of the cast, but the rest of the cast was certainly not having it. Not in Snatch Game.
No, and actually I was really, really grateful that we had Lucy LaDuca as Joan Rivers during this one, not only because she had a fantastic Joan Rivers impression, like truly one of the best I've ever seen, and she was very funny, but we had that Joan Rivers persona to be making fun of Sugar and Spice, being like, no, let's not talk to the idiots, like talking down to them in a way that Joan would, but it was also felt like the Greek chorus where it was all of us being like, what are they doing?
It was a lot of Lucy as Joan Rivers, which is great because she's good. But it's also a shame because you have like Sasha Colby as like Jan Crouch, who looks great, incredible. I don't remember if she spoke.
I think she said, hi, I'm Jan Crouch, and that's it.
And then you have Amethyst as like the tan mom. I don't know what reference that is into, but you know, I was digging it. I was like, okay, this is a fine character, much better than Sugar and Spice. I think in this one, it was just as long as you were better than them, then it was okay.
Honestly, they were like a shield for other bad Snatch Game characters because there were very few people who did well. Tan Mom, the reference felt a little like 2000 and late, but I thought she was funny. I thought the one joke where it was 100% my son, I thought that was funny. That was good. Everything else, you know, it was better than the other people. Like you said, that's pretty much all you needed to get through on the second Snatch Game.
Same with Jax as the Mona Lisa. I think it led to like one gag with like the Mona Lisa. Like I think it was like acrylics, or I forget what the joke is already.
The tongue. That was
Yes.
funny. I like that, but that was the only thing we really saw.
Like we keep saying, it's much better than just, as long as you're at least better than Sugar and Spice. There was a bit of an issue with Aura, you know, who does Bretman Rock, and, you know, even if you don't know Bretman Rock, you know that they have like this very high energy, very like comedic presence, just a presence in general. It wasn't there. So
even if you don't know Bretman, I could laugh at some jokes if there were some jokes being told, but Aura did the whole Wikipedia thing again where it's like, did you know I'm a singer? Like, I don't particularly care. Why are you singing a song? This doesn't fit in. You planned this ahead of time. It doesn't fit. You're going with it anyways. Like, learn to read the room, you know?
let's talk about these runway looks, right? Beautiful Nightmare, great category. I was all in because this is me. I love it. I love it, But then it starts out with Marsha first in like this ogre dentist kind of thing that I wish kind of went a little bit further,
I wish it was anything. My note said, what the hell's this dentist leggings? It's nothing. I don't know what it was. There was a black belt at the center. It was nothing. It was nothing, Mama. Sorry. I love you, Marsha.
You compare that to Luxx, who comes out in like this The Ring kind of like drowned. She with the cinder block behind her.
The only thing, I love this look. Let me preface it with that. I love Luxx. No runway has been bad by Luxx, according to me. Not according to Nick. Anyway, but the one thing that took me out of this illusion, the one thing I wish had been different, she was still wearing the brown tights and had this like blue painted torso. That took me out of it a little bit. I wish she had done the blue on the legs, but again, body makeup is tough and it takes a long time. So, but also you're on Drag Race, so take the time,
That's very true, but it was enough, right? Compare that to Marsha, who's like could have done more, to Luxx, who is doing more, and it's like, well, okay, right?
Yes.
And then you have Malaysia Baby Doll Fox, who comes out in like this gorgeous pastel look with like the horns and like giving really like real like, oh, this is one of those internet kid games that like all the kids are loving now that they're streaming, like, I don't know, these creepy horror cartoon things that they're all playing. It's great. I loved it.
Rewind the tapes. I said I love Malaysia, but she needs to not wear a white gown next week because she's done nothing but wear white gowns. And what does she walk out on this runway in? A white gown.
Right. But at least we don't have that problem with Mistress, who comes out in the first of 3 spider looks that we get in the runway. And, absolutely gorgeous. I didn't quite understand that it was like a web number. I didn't quite get it, but I was mesmerized.
Okay, maybe I'm just being like in a bad mood this week or something. I don't think I am, but I really liked what was underneath, and obviously like the face is stamped. She looks amazing. I love the red and black part. The cage and the white netting around the side, I wish she had lost that because it distracted from what was clearly a really beautiful look underneath. Stan Mistress forever. Just not my favorite runway look of hers.
Yeah, I agree. And that's compared to when we get it with Anitra, who does the second spider of the evening. Yeah. And you get a little bit more there. You get the whole spider behind as like a part of it.
Yeah, I thought that was good. A lot of spiders. It's tough to stand out as a spider on this runway though. So her look was like fine. She looked beautiful, Her silhouette is always amazing, but it didn't really hit me as anything particular. It's
the same with Selena, who comes out in like a zombie look, I guess. I don't know. I was getting
supposed to be Leatherface?
Yeah, I was getting more. It puts the lotion on its skin kind of vibes, right?
I know she said that it was supposed to be like skin-ish, but like. Some of those skin tones, I was like, those are green. If anyone's got that skin, they are like deep in jaundice. Like none of this, it didn't read as skin to me. She's saying it and I'm like, that's poorly colored latex. I don't know. I didn't like it. I'm sorry. I wish I liked these looks more, Nick. I really like this category.
You compare that to Robin Fierce, who... We're back in that whole I kind of forgot you were in this competition phase where she comes out with the third spider look, and by that point it's kind of the weakest to me, because we've already seen 2 great attempts at it. So I don't know.
Well, okay, next up we do have a beautiful Nightmare look that I thought was really successful, and it was Lucy, who is having a great week, Joan Rivers, and then she comes out with this like Jason Voorhees realness, What did you think of this gown? Because I liked it.
So I like the look. It's the same problem with the zombie thing. I wasn't reading much Jason into it. I loved it, but it was the kind of thing that if you took away the Jason mask, it would be a gorgeous look. I would never think Jason.
That is a really valid point. And I think just as someone who's like not as familiar with Jason, I was like, that's the mask. And she said it, so I know. But you're right. If she took it away, I don't think I'd be able to clock that at all.
That's the thing, you know.
Right.
Compare that to Sasha Colby, who comes out as like, oh my God.
She looked so hot. I loved the see-through and then the dramatic bottom and the makeup at the top. She can do no wrong. In my book, she could punch me in the face and I'd be like, oh my God, thank you so much for the privilege.
I mean, I totally agree. And it was such a strong look that I was kind of underwhelmed by everything that came after.
Yeah.
I hate to put it that way. Like, Jax came out. I don't even remember what she wore.
She was the snake, which she looked like a who.
I mean, it's tough to follow up Sasha. Like, then you get Sugar and Spice, who, once again, we had, like, I was testing the theory you had last week. Do I like the first one more than the second? This time I do. I love Sugar's. I'm a pastel person. I love Sugar's colorful take on the thing more so than the standard goth doll kind of take.
Yeah.
And but they were still very much the same looks, and there's only so far you can take with that. And Aura, yes, that black gown was a cool. Like, I do like the idea of the blood being the red piece down. But at the same time, I'm like, it's kind of underwhelmed.
Really? I'm shocked. Okay, Aura was my second favorite look of the night because she came out and I said, that's a beautiful gown, she's a beautiful queen. And she turned around to show that exposed vertebrae. I felt like she was one of the few queens who really understood the assignment, and the reveal was so unexpected. I didn't love her mugging it on the runway. They kind of played it with like herpa-derpa music that felt silly, but I really, really liked the garment itself. I felt like that was really beautiful. And then Amethyst, she was Lady Gaga in Paparazzi, I mean.
Yeah, I was.
How was that a beautiful nightmare? We come to the tops and the bottoms, and it's Marsha, Mistress, and Lucy in the top. That makes total sense. Lucy took home the win, and we kind of talked about how you thought it should have been Marsha. I'm okay with it being Lucy. I think her Joan Rivers was really, really good.
When you combine everything, you combine Lucy's look, you combine with the Joan Rivers, and it's like, okay, she deserved the win this week.
I agree. And then it was a well-deserved lose for Sugar, Spice, and Aura, because they just did awful. I mean, you listen to us talk about it. I don't want to beat a dead horse. But it turns out that it's Sugar and Spice who have to lip sync against each other. Of course they do. We've been waiting for this twin sync all season. And they get You Better Run by Pat Benatar, which is a great song that they did literally nothing with. Thoughts on the lip sync, Nick?
I mean, I thought they were both going home.
They should have.
Yes, like, I didn't think we were getting a Sugar versus Spice this early in the season. But after Snatch Game and after everything that happened, I was like, it's time. It's time to send the twins home together.
They're doing like a choreographed number with one another. They're not even really lip syncing. Sugar fell twice. Like, what? What are we doing? This is weird.
I thought that was part of the joke. I was like, is Sugar meant to be falling? But no, apparently not, But, we did outspice as the one with just a little bit more. So it does make sense why Spice is ultimately the one that gets, chosen to stick around. And I'm curious now to see how Spice will do as a singles competitor.
I agree. I think it's time for us to see what Spice can do sans Sugar. I think, honestly, she's gonna thrive because she won't have that crutch. Next week, we kick off with a design challenge. I'm excited to see these girls sew. Hopefully some of them can sew. Well, you can stick with us for all of your drag race needs. We will be following the rest of the season every week here on Dragged. So until then, we will see ya.